Warning. This is a computer game and is meant solely for entertainment purposes. This game contains content and materials not recommended for children and or those seeking to enhance or establish political careers. This is the warning you get upon booting up Postal for the first time, and I knew right then and there that this would surely be a one-of-a-kind experience that I would never forget so long as I draw breath. This is my first time ever playing Postal, and let me tell you, it was a wild ride. Let's begin. Now, the game shows you the controls at the beginning so you can, play the game. However, this is a lot of words and I really didn't feel like reading all that, so I just skipped straight to the opening cinematic after skimming through it. Speaking of which, during the opening cinematic, we see things such as happy drunk people dancing in the street, police brutality, and people high on crack. It's no wonder they call this place paradise. Anyway, so the game begins with the bitch, our wife, telling us to go run some errands in town. These errands include picking up our paycheck, cashing our paycheck, and getting milk. Seems simple enough. Upon getting full control of the postal dude, I did what every American living in a trailer park does when they wake up in the morning and grab my shovel and crack pipe. Now, while I was skimming through the controls earlier in the loading screen, I noticed that G was to flip people off, so naturally I used this ability as soon as I possibly could. However, apparently free speech is illegal in the town of Paradise because this immediately angered the police officer right next to the guy I was flipping off. Now, as I was running away from the police, I ran into a random backyard, which just so happened to be the home of two female police officers. Now, naturally I ran into the first door I could find. However, when I went inside, I found two M16s propped up against a bed frame and decided to make my last stand in this house. Now, normally in FPS games, R is to reload. However, in this game, it's to whip out your cock. So naturally, I started pissing all over the female police officers I had just murdered in cold blood. I had less than 3 total minutes of playtime on this game, and already I was murdering police officers in cold blood and then pissing on their corpses. It was at this point I decided, you know what, fuck it, and continued my rampage down the street. Eventually I ran out of bullets, so I just started whacking people with my shovel. It was here where I ended up accidentally decapitating another police officer. Anyway, so after committing more acts of breaking and entering and assault, I went into this random dude's house and found a can of gasoline in the sink. I think you all know where this is headed. I found this staircase, which a lot of people seen me walking on, poured a trail of gasoline and set it ablaze. However, my dumbass also accidentally lit myself on fire in the process. Now, eventually I was cooked alive, however, not before giving this poor random old guy with a kick me sign on his back a hug while I was still on fire. I'm a decent person. Anyway, so after restarting the day, I decided to head to work, where I came across a site that would make Jack Thompson proud and jizz in his pants. It was a group of anti-video game protesters protesting, I don't fucking know, violent video games or something. Who gives a shit? They're fucking brain dead. Anyway, I decided to head into work, but not before letting the game protesters outside know exactly what I thought of them.
Fuck you.
So I headed into work only to be immediately fired on the spot after working there for 1 day. But hey, I got paid, and that's all that matters. I was about to leave and make my way to the bank when all of a sudden the people outside protesting that pixels on screen can somehow make you violent turn violent themselves and rush into the game studio armed to the teeth. Now this could have gone badly, however thankfully every single game dev in this studio was packing more heat than 50 Cent. I guess they all either knew this moment was coming, or they are all red-blooded God-fearing Americans who practice their Second Amendment rights. Either way, all power to them. Now as I was leaving the game studio, I think it's safe to say that I pissed off the gaming protesters. And I mean that in a literal sense. As I was leaving, I whipped out my dick and just started giving every single one of the protesters a golden shower as I made my exit. After that, I decided to smoke some crack and open my inventory for the first time. It is here where I found the clipboard, which details all your stats throughout the game. Some of these stats are of great importance, such as the amount of gallons you've pissed, the amount of cops you've lured out with donuts, and the amount of elephants you've slaughtered. As I was entering a new area of the game, I ran into one of those video game protesters from earlier. Luckily, their aim was worse than Grunkle Stan's ex-wife, so I proceeded to mow him down like he was my fucking front lawn. As I was walking down the street, I noticed this little place called Jacked In/Jacked Off Communications. Now, you would think this would be either a phone or electronics store, but nope, it's a front. A front specifically for selling crack. I finally managed to make it to the bank, where upon entering, I noticed a line longer than Jeffrey Epstein's flight log. Now, my intrusive thoughts were telling me to kill them all. However, I'm a law-abiding citizen, so I decided against it. Now, my ADHD ass started to get impatient, so I started to move around in circles. It was here where I accidentally fat-fingered the Q key and my foot gave this cop's asshole a nice kiss. Naturally, after this, I did what I do best and booked it from the police like an Alabama girl booking it away from a family meeting. After running around for a while, I managed to escape the cop whose rectum had a nice meeting with my big toe and went back to the bank and got back in line. While waiting in line at the bank, I noticed something weird. For one, postal dude kept complaining about how he has to stop smoking this crap. The next thing I noticed was that the heart that represents my health was rapidly beating. As it turns out, I was suffering the withdrawal effects from the crack I smoked earlier. Who would have thought that smoking crack was bad for your health? As I was picking up my paycheck at the bank, a group of robbers armed with shotguns broke in and started shooting up the place demanding money. If I had a nickel for every time I was involved in a shootout today, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird I'd have it twice. The robbers were distracted by the cops shooting at them though, so I took this opportunity to casually walk out the door while plucking a shotgun off of one of their dead corpses. The last task we had to do today was pick up milk. So I went to a grocery store which had a stereotypical Indian image on its wall, with stereotypical Indian music playing inside, ran by a stereotypical Indian man, while postal dude said some stereotypical offensive stuff towards Indians upon first entering the store.
God, what's that awful stench? Did someone slaughter a goat in here? No, seriously, I want to know.
After paying for my milk, I was told very kindly by the store owner how much he appreciates me as a customer.
Thank you for your unclean visit. Now get out and come again, please.
Now, upon returning home with that milk, I looked down at it and I shed a tear in my eye, for I had finally done what my father could never accomplish.
Did you go by work?
Yeah, apparently I'm, on sabbatical or something.
Well, good. Maybe you can get a few more things done for me.
I'm gonna do a few things to you, woman.
What was that?
Nothing, dear. Enjoy your milk.